Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I'm with executeautomation.com, and today in this lecture of our Selenium with Java series that we have been talking about, we are going to talk about even more end-to-end testing functionality with Selenium Java. So if you remember in our last lecture, while we were trying to work with the login operation, and also we saw how we can able to locate the element for the username, password, and also clicking the button using the CSS selector of the .btn using the Chrome dev tool, and we saw how the every functionality was working fine for us over there, right? So now we are going to go a level further, and I also gave you a homework to see if you can able to perform those operations to create an user in the eaapp.swami.com website. So if you have already done that, it's already great. If you have not done, we are going to be doing that. But you might have seen there are some challenges in the automation of the create user there, because if you go to the application and if you try to enter the username and password, and if you go to the employee detail of the application, so just give me a second. Over here, and if I go to the employee list, and you will notice that once I hit this create new button, there are going to be a lot of text boxes, and you'll also see that there is going to be a drop down box over here. So how do you actually select, for instance, the grade as senior or C level or middle from these drop down? So that should be one of the challenges that you might have faced it. So if I already figured out how to resolve that particular problem, it's amazing. If not, we are going to see how we can achieve that. So as that said, in this lecture, we are going to see working with more locators and how to work with the drop down element, or otherwise called as the select element of the drop down, and also performing an end-to-end flow of automation testing. So we are going to do all these things in this particular lecture, and we'll see how we can able to complete the full workflow, starting from the login, creating a user, and clicking the log off button. So we are going to do every single thing in this particular lecture. So we'll see how we can able to achieve that. So in order to do that, we have already did the login operation. So you have done that. So I'm not going to do that again. So what I'm going to do is, as you know, that this is going to be responsible for performing the login operation. And because in Java, we have this concept of methods where you can group all the similar functionality as a simple method, I'm going to do that over here. So I'm going to just copy all this method, or maybe cut all these methods, these operations, and I'm going to create a method called as public void, and we can probably say as a login operation, or maybe just login, and I'm gonna paste these lines, and you can see that it requires the driver, because this driver is something sitting in the main method over here. So we need to pass this as a parameter there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna say web driver, and I'm gonna pass the driver as a variable there. And I'm also gonna make this as static, so that I can access this method, the static method, from over here in this main method. So you have already gone through these code. So just for the simplicity purpose, I'm just going to get rid of all these lines because we don't really need them. And I'm going to say login operation, right? So I'm going to say just login, and I'm going to pass the driver variable over there. So this is going to perform the login operation for me. And once the login is done, I then need to click the employee list over here, this particular link, because if I don't click that, you don't get to that particular page, right? So what I mean is, once I do a login by entering the username and the password, and once I click the employee list, you see that this particular page comes in. So I'm going to do this operation this time, which means clicking the employee list. So in order to do that, sorry, I'm in my Mac right now. So I'm going to create another method this time. So I'm going to say public static void create user. So that's going to be the method which I'm trying to create. And I'm going to pass the web driver of the driver as the parameter. And in this particular method, I'm going to perform the operation like clicking the employee list. So how do I click the employee list? You might easily do that because you have already clicked the link login from this particular application, if you remember. So this employee list is also a login because if you just do an inspect, you can see that it's an A of href, which means it is as an hyperlink and it's an anchor tag there. So you can just click using its link text. So it's as simple as that. So I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna copy that and I'm gonna say driver dot find element. So I'm going to do this same pattern like how we did before. And you know that in order to perform a click using the link text, we need to call the by method. So by class, and then there is a link text method. So I'm going to say dot link text, and I'm going to pass the employee list over here. So that is going to help me identify the link text, and then I can perform a click operation. And then once I click the employee list, I also need to click this create new button. So what is this create new button and how do I identify that? Well, you know already how the things works, right? Just right click it, go to the inspect element, and you see that this employee list, this create new button is also an hyperlink. So there is an A tag there, which means this is also an anchor tag of a hyperlink. So I can just use the link text as well to identify this create new. So I can just go to the application over here and just copy, paste it over here, and I'm gonna say create. So that's gonna perform the click operation on the create button. So it's so easy. You're already doing quite a lot of things very, very faster this time. Because we ran things very slower in our last few lectures, starting this lecture, you will see that things are going to roll out a bit more faster because you have already gained the knowledge of how you can play around with this Selenium automation testing tool. You know how the method works, you know how web element works, and you know how to identify the elements in the UI. And now it's time for you to rock and roll to start automating things. That's what you're doing over here. So you see that we are just driving a bit fast as well. Well, as that said, I'm gonna go, sorry about clicking that ghost clicking, going to my Mac every single time because I forgot the shortcut. Yeah, now I got it. This one. Yeah, cool. And once I click this create new button, I get into this this page where I have the name, salary, duration worked, and all those things, right? So I'm gonna see what is the locator for this text box. You remember the username text box that we use to identify? It's exactly the same idea to identify the text box over here as well. Just go and hit this inspect. You see that it is an input tag, and you'll also notice that it is holding an ID of name. It also has a name of name. So this particular control on this particular page is quite good with all the locators, so we can just use that as it is. And similarly, you can see that if you just drill down this tree there, it says that this particular control, the salary, also has got a div which has got the input which is of ID of salary. So it's almost the name of the label, which is the locator for this particular application. So it's going to be very, very straightforward to automate. So I have made this application a bit more automation friendly so that you can easily do things and not focus on how the locators are available or not, things like that. And in real time as well, most of these modern applications like React or Vue or any application that you take, all these applications has got locators by default. And there are very less chances in modern app you will have a situation where the locators are not available. You can easily do that. I mean, you can easily identify a locator. If the locator is not completely available, you can once again, as I told you, check your developer to add the locator. They can easily do it for you, right? So as that said, I'm gonna go to the application over here, and I'm gonna say find element by dot name, which is going to be name, right? So we saw that the locator was name there. So I'm going to say name dot send keys, and over here for the name I'm going to enter the name as for instance auto user 1, right? That's going to be the name of this particular person. And I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to paste a couple more time here, just because I'm going to use the exact same idea for locating the rest of the locators as well. So it's going to be the name as auto user 1, salary, and we know that the salary also has the name as salary, and there is this duration works. Just go and check what is the ID or name. So yeah, the ID is duration worked. So I'm gonna say ID as duration worked, and the salary I'm just going to enter as 10,000, and duration worked maybe 100 or maybe 40, and then what else is there? And grade I'm not going to choose for now, because this is a drop down control. We will be talking about that exclusively right now, so I'm just going to leave this as it is for now. And let's try to enter the email. So for the email, the name is email as well, not bad. So it's email, and I'm going to enter the email address as autouser@ea.com. Cool. So we have entered almost all the details which is required to be filled on that particular form. And finally, I can now click this create button. So I'm going to go do an inspect, and we can see that the button can be identified using the .btn class name. You remember the same CSS locator that we use for performing a click of the login operation, and that's exactly what it is. So you can just go ahead and click pretty much like how we did over here, like this one. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it over here, and you see that that should work. I'm also going to do a bit of negative testing, but for now I'm going to just do a positive data entry, click the create button, and we'll see how that works. But I'm then going to do a negative test case, because most of the time you as an automation test engineer are not going to test just like how the application work. Rather, you are going to be testing like how an end user is going to use that application for you, right? So that is how you should be testing the application, and that is what we are going to be doing and seeing how things are going to be used while you do the negative testing as well. Well, as I said, I'm going to say create user, or not for doing that, I'm going to say create user, and I'm going to pass the driver, something like that. I'm going to save this. Oops, sorry, not here. We are going to do the create user over here, right? Cool. So we're going to perform a login operation in the main method, and then we're going to perform a create user operation. So simple while you write as a method, because now you know that this method is going to be responsible for login operation. This method is going to be responsible for the create user operation. And then we can click the log off button as well. The log off link, as you can see over here, is a hyperlink as well. So you can just identify using the A tag, which is the hyperlink tag, which means it is a link text as well. So I'm going to say public static void log off. And the log off operation, I'm going to do the same way using the link text. So I'm going to copy this, paste it over here, and I'm going to say log off. Is that the text? Yeah, that's cool. And driver, absolutely, we need the web driver of driver, and that should do things for me. Cool. And now I'm gonna pass the, so once I perform a create user, I'm also gonna perform a log off operation. Cool, it's all done. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and click this run. We will see the whole end-to-end operation this time going to happen for us, all the way from login and creating the user, and then clicking the log off operation. So for doing that, I'm going to go click debug this test and we'll see what's going to happen. So it has opened the browser for me, and then it's going to perform the login operation, and it's going to click the employee list. And you see that now it has not clicked the create new button there. And you see that we got an error here. We'll see what is this error. And you will notice that the error, it says that unable to find the control. And it says that unable to find the exact match or the browser that it's looking for, whatever. And it says that it couldn't able to find the link text as create. So you may have this question like, Karthik, we saw this locator create over here, right? So if you just go back to the employee list, we have this create over here, but it is not create, it is create new. So for some reason, I have mistakenly added this as create over there. So that is entirely wrong. So I should go back and change the locator as create new, like that. And now this should work. So this also proves the point that if there is any locator change in future happens, it easily tells us that the automation tells us that there is a locator change. So in this case, at least the locator they have passed in for the link text was wrong. But what if the locator has changed in the application? Your automation testing is going to immediately tell you that this locator has gone rogue or not there, or it's completely been jeopardized by your developer. You can easily see them all instantly. And that is the feedback loop that you get out of an automation testing tool like this, like Selenium. And that's the reason why we have this kind of automation testing tool. And that is the real power of having an end-to-end testing of UI of your application every single time while you test your application. So you saw the real example right now, like how that worked. So now see that I could able to click the create new button, and I also could able to perform a log off operation once I performed a login, once I performed an entry of the data. So now let's say if I go back to the login and try to enter, you see that in the employee list, I also have a user called as auto user one with all these details. So this is already working, guys. Like this is amazing. So we have successfully performed a data entry operation using automated fashion, like creating a user using this tool Selenium, which is amazing, right? That is awesome. So once we have this in place right now, the next operation which I wanted to show you is going to be the negative operation. What is this negative operation really means? So what if you don't enter the name, rather you just enter these details like that, and if you hit create, you will notice that the data entry is actually happening there. See that now I could able to perform a user creation over here, which is not quite right, because you shouldn't be creating a user just like that. But let's say if I enter this value and if I enter the rest of the value, something like this, and if I hit create, there is a mandatory field, at least for the salary. So we have found a bug in our application saying there is no mandatory field testing, mandatory field like validation in this particular UI for the name. So that is wrong, right? Like this is something that you have found in your testing, that you could able to save or create a user without having a name, which is completely insane, because you can't create a user without a name for that user, right? That is a wrong thing. But you can see that now I can't save if there is no salary field, which is okay, because you have salary is a mandatory field as well in this case, and that's why it is telling you. And what if I don't have a duration worked, and if I hit create, and you can see that there is a mandatory field for the duration worked as well. So there is a validation here. And what if I don't have an email address, and if I hit create, there is no validation for the email address. So it looks like there is a missing validation for the name and the email which the developer has done, and you have now the case for rising a bug in any of the bug tracking tool which your company is using. It could be Jira, or it can be Azure DevOps, or it could be anything that your company is using in order for you to provide an artifact to the developer saying this particular issue is there. So how do we actually capture this kind of issue? Automation is the only way, but we can also verify from the UI if the mandatory fields are really available or not. The way that you can do it is you could able to perform potentially like multiple different permutation and combination of data entry in there on the UI and see how that can be achieved. So in this case, as you can see, it says the salary field is required. So this is important. So you can now validate to see if this field is there within your application or not. So what you can do is, while you try to perform a data entry, you can now just go to your application, your test over here, and let's say you try to not enter the salary at all. Just cut this line of code, and you just click the save button, and now you write a condition here. So the condition is going to be, if you're going to say a pseudocode here. So if the mandatory field error for salary appears, then enter the salary. That's my condition. Mandatory. Yeah, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find the locator for the mandatory field. I'm going to this particular salary field, right click, inspect, and choose this arrow there and just scroll down to this particular location. You see that we have a field validation for this span of text as this, or maybe there is a data val message for is equal to salary. So if you have an accessibility locator, so this is called as an accessibility locator. So if you have any of the locator with a val message like -var, which means it's an accessibility locator. So don't worry about the accessibility locators yet, because we have not talked about it. So let's not get into there for now. But in order for you to identify this accessibility locator, you can use in two different ways. You can just identify using its text. And the better way for doing it this time, for the first time, I'm going to be talking about what is called as XPath. I'm going to talk about XPath because XPath is another way for you to identify locators on the UI. So what is XPath, guys? So if I just go to the console here once again, and also let me copy this text, this one, or maybe, yeah, whatever is required. Let me copy that. And I'm going to go here. Remember, while I was trying to do an CSS locator, I used to do like $, and then I just use .btn, something like that. And we found the button on this particular page. Similarly, for locating an XPath, you can use $x. So because that's an XPath for, and that is the variable that you use in the browsers. And over here, just open the double quotes and type /. That's how the XPath really begins. Just put /, and here you can just say, because we're going to be identifying for a span tag, you can just say span like that, and open a square bracket or square braces, whatever, and put the text, something like this. And this is a method basically. And here you can just copy paste this particular thing over here. So I just need to type probably in here because the Chrome is not allowing. It says the salary field is required, right? So I'm going to say the salary field is required. And I think there was a dot afterwards. Yeah, the dot, double quotes, close the open bracket that you have opened, and and just double quotes. And if you hit enter, you see that we get this locator, which is showing this particular locator over here. Do you see that that locator really comes in for me over here, which tells me that this is basically an locator that we are looking for, which is great. So now we can identify the locator using a locator called as xpath. So I'm going to use this locator this time. I'm going to copy this locator and I'm going to go to my writer IDE, IntelliJ IDE, and here I'm going to say if I'm going to say driver dot find element by dot xpath. You see that we have a method called as xpath. Over here, I'm going to paste this locator that we have identified like that. And I'm going to say, because we're going to be identifying the element if it is there or not. So for doing that, we have a method called as is displayed. You see that this method, this is displayed method, is going to return as a Boolean, something like this. So this Boolean tells us that this is basically going to be returning me true or false based on the locator available in the UI or not. So I'm going to choose is displayed, and if it is displayed, I'm going to open the braces here like this. So if it is displayed, then you enter the value for the salary there. That is what my condition was, right? So I'm doing that over here based on the condition. So if it is not displayed, else if it is not displayed, then do nothing. Just don't do anything, right? So I'm going to save this right now, and I'm going to put a breakpoint over here, and we will see how this code really works. So I'm going to just go debug this Selenium test, and we will see if our pseudocode that we have written and the way that we are trying to identify the element and performing the negative testing operation is paving us the way or not. So it's going to enter the details there, and it's going to create the details. So you see that the create the salary was not being entered there, and we are getting the salary field is required, and we are in the if condition this time. And you see that this condition was true because there was this locator being displayed, and we are trying to enter the salary this time. You see that that's entered, and then it's going to get out of this location, this particular code. But the problem is, you see that we did not click the create button once again, because once you try to perform the operation of the salary entry, the click button needs to be clicked once again. Only then you can create the user. If not, it's not going to be created for you, right? So we need to copy this whole thing, paste it over here, and then it creates things for you once again. So we'll see how that works. So I'm going to just go debug this test once again. Let me stop and rerun. So you see that it's working. It's creating. And then it entered the salary once again. It clicked the create, and now the user is created. So if I have any open window, you see that the auto user one is entered second time as well. So that's really working for us, like how we are looking for. That is how you do the negative testing in your test itself. And now the final operation which I wanted to show you is going to be selecting the drop down value, which is using Selenium, right? Like how we actually do that. Well, in order to select the drop down locators, you can actually not use the one like features which is available in Selenium by default. Rather, you should be using what is called as a selenium.support package or the library which is available within Selenium. So if you just go to Maven over here, the one that we just installed, the Selenium. So if you just go to the org Selenium over here, you'll also notice that we have got a package called a Selenium support. So this Selenium support is a different package altogether that we have to install in order for us to work with the additional supported package, which is nothing but the selecting of a drop down or anything like that. So that is something we need as well. So this package, the Selenium support package, has got few more additional functionalities which is required for you to automate, like drag and drop and selecting a drop down, and also something like mouse hovering. So all these operations are available within this Selenium support package. So we need this package as well for automating the UI even further. Like it's like an extension that is required for you to automate it. So I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to go to the pom.xml file. You remember the way that we added the dependency for Selenium Java? Same thing over here, but I'm going to be adding another dependency for Selenium support over here. So this is how you can add multiple dependencies within the same pom.xml file. It's a Maven file. And now once you've added it, you click this Maven change button and you see that the Selenium support is going to be added for you in this particular project, which is amazing. And once we have this, now I can also write the selecting of the drop down operation. So let's see how I can do that. So once I entered the duration worked, I can now select the drop down using what is called as a select method. And you see that the select method is available in the openqa.selenium.support.ui. So this support.ui is coming over here because we have added the support package just now. So I'm going to add this select. See that? Now it's going to import the class for me over here. And I want to say select the grade is equal to new select. And over here in this particular select, I need to pass the element that I need to identify, which is going to be using the locator. And you can see that the select element can be identified using, what is that? I think this can be identified using its name as well. So you see that this is a select tag over there. That's why it called a select in the method. So we can identify using its ID as grade. So now I can just say by ID as grade. So that's my locator to identify the element in the drop down. And over here, I can just say select grade. And I wanted to select, for instance, the text middle or whatever. So if I wanted to do that, I want to choose the option using its value or using its text. So you see that there is a value 1, 2, 3, 4 like that in the options. You can either use this way to select the drop down value, or you can also choose by using its text, which is this one. So let's assume that I wanted to choose using its text. So I can just say dot, and you see that I have an option called the select by visible text method, where I can just say middle. That's going to choose the first like a middle drop down for me over there. So if you don't believe me, let's see how that really happens. So I'm going to just go, I'm not going to log off. I'm going to put a breakpoint here and I'm going to debug this test. And you see that the middle has got a value of 2 in the value option there. So we will see how that actually works. So it's going to open the browser. It's going to perform the login operation, and it's going to choose the create new. And you see that it has chosen the middle, but for some reason, once the mandatory field requirement was kicked in, the UI changed from the middle to junior once again. So you can replicate the issue if you wanted to. So you can just say whatever value that you're trying to enter here, like that. You chose senior. If you hit create, you see that now it again, the grade turned into junior there. That's an issue. That's a UI issue that we have got. So if you have any of these mandatory field kicks in, this drop down again goes back to the way that you have chosen. So there are so many issues this application has got. You have found so many bugs. This is how real time, while we try to do the automation testing, we find all these issues. But at least for now, We have identified how we can able to choose the drop down, and I'm going to stop from here. And I'm going to let you to do all these things, whatever that we have learned so far, as a takeaway for you to see how you can choose whatever that you wanted to, and see if you can able to enter correctly in the UI as you have selected. Hope that makes sense. Catch you in the next one. We are going to be discussing even further to see how we can write better automation testing in our next lecture. Thank you.